Hi guys, welcome back. In today's video, I'd really like to discuss plug-in hybrid vehicles versus battery electric vehicles. So we are navigating our way through looking for a new car. I've sort of been looking actually since we probably bought our last car because I knew it was only going to be sort of a short-term vehicle. And previously, as I've mentioned before, we used to have an EV. So I'm dying to get back into an EV, or at the very least, a plug-in hybrid. We're only a one-vehicle household. We both work at the same company. We don't have a need for two cars. It would just be unnecessary expense. So our car has to be quite versatile. So obviously it has to cover our commute to work, be able to tow our caravan, obviously cover things like just general shopping, maybe trips to IKEA, B&Q, garden centre, you know, this rock and roll lifestyle that we lead. Yeah, the car has to sort of suit it all. So just touching on what we previously had, we used to have an MG ZS EV, which was a full battery electric vehicle. And actually it was the right size for us, wasn't it? We really liked the car. It had a range of 100, like a real world range of about 140 miles, which 98% of the time was enough, or maybe like 90% of the time it was enough.
We couldn't quite go to London and back.
No, it couldn't get to London and back for football.
And for us, that's sort of the nearest regularish journey.
And I think we had to just be a bit more mindful that if we wanted to say maybe go to maybe Croydon and then go to my parents and then come back home, that we couldn't do that all on one charge, or so we'd kind of have to either publicly charge, or maybe ask mum and dad if we can plug in and charge at their house. They never really minded, but it's not something that's ideal. So yeah, what were your thoughts on the previous car? I know you quite liked it, didn't you?
Yeah, it drove well, it was big enough, no issues. To me, a car's a car. So.
Yeah, I know. So, like I say, we're either looking at a plug-in hybrid or a battery electric vehicle. So I thought maybe if we was to run through maybe the pros and cons of both, hopefully others that are in a similar position might have something to say, or we might be able to give you some food for thought. So starting with plug-in hybrid, we're actually exclusively only looking at plug-in hybrids because I don't really want one of those mild hybrid or self-charging hybrids. I really like that you can plug in a vehicle and actually just use put it in EV mode, so you're just driving in electric rather than in tandem with an internal combustion engine on and off all the time. So I feel like the pros of a plug-in hybrid are it gives you basically the best of both worlds, or is it the worst? I don't that's what we're trying to sort of establish. So obviously it gives you access to the benefits of an EV. So generally it would allow us to complete our commute, local shopping, mostly on EV only. If you select EV only mode in the car, we can do most of those type of journeys electric only. Visiting family that are, well, most of our family is sort of like 30-ish plus miles away. Most of these plug-in hybrids actually only have a range of 30 to 40 miles before you run out of charge. You would still be reliant on a internal combustion engine. But then that's where the flexibility of that comes in. Like when you're towing, for instance, there's no need to stop and recharge. Once you've run out of electric, you just carry on with petrol, or you tandem it until you run out of electric. Also, they have a cheaper purchase price typically. We're looking at used examples. We're not looking at brand new vehicles, so I couldn't really comment. But yeah, typically a used 3-year-old plug-in hybrid is much cheaper than a 3-year-old electric vehicle that can tow. And then as I've touched on, earlier with regards to cons, the EV range isn't actually really enough for what we would need because, like I say, my parents live over 30 miles away. Longer trips to football or something. I mean, Bill goes to football most weeks, so I'm having to drive 30 miles to drop him off. So, yeah, typically if a plug-in hybrid has a 30 to 40 mile range, we can only really travel 15 to 20 miles radius of our home to do a return journey before we can recharge. So anything more than 15 to 20 miles, and that is obviously best case scenario, the car's going to be running on the internal combustion engine, which is obviously pushing up the price per mile cost. Also, some plug-in hybrids, I'm not going to go into great detail of this, but one that we looked at in particular, in summer it would have been fine to run in EV-only mode and use the air conditioning and things, but in winter, the internal combustion engine had to run in order for the heater to work. So yes, you could probably use a heated steering wheel and heated seats to keep you warm, but the ambient temperature in the vehicle is going to be quite cold. So if the engine's running from having the heating on, or like the cost savings aren't going to be so great. That said, the engine would probably come on, heat the vehicle. There'd be some residual heat when the engine clicked off before it needed to come back on. So I'd say it's possibly more economical than just a regular petrol car, but I don't know. And then in terms of efficiency, if you think about it, if you're in EV-only mode, you're hauling along an internal combustion engine, and vice versa. When you've run out of battery and you're just using the internal combustion engine, you're having to haul around an electric motor and a battery. So that's at that point, it would actually be more efficient just to have a petrol car, because you wouldn't be hauling around all this extra weight.
Yeah, well, the only benefit really of having a hybrid is you can do the local commuting that's free, or not free, but cheap.
Much cheaper, yeah.
But then there's not the extra hassle of when you're towing, having to detach and find a charger and all that other stuff.
Yeah, and the hassle that brings. Yeah, you're right. I feel like the Seat Leon plug-in hybrid is a really good value for money car. They're really sort of tumbling in price. A little bit smaller than what we've currently got, but would actually suit our needs. For a bit more space, something like a Skoda Octavia plug-in hybrid or a Volkswagen Passat, I think that'd be quite a good vehicle. And as I said earlier, the MG HS plug-in hybrid, really nice car. However, for the heating to work in winter, the engine would have come on. So that was a reason why we sort of like wrote that off. So when we actually looked at it, our thoughts from that were it was a nice car. It actually seemed to have a really good spec. It had a really good 360-degree camera system, electric tailgate, nice big panoramic roof. It was really, really lovely. However, the infotainment system was really slow, which I suppose was a little complaint we had about our MG, as it was a bit slow and laggy, wasn't it? The engine sounded quite strained under heavy acceleration, and obviously if you're towing, then it's going to be strained even more. So not particularly pleasant to listen to, and it just seemed quite expensive. So yeah, that was a reason why we didn't bother. And like I said, we just thought, well, what we decided to do was, for the last year, have just a relatively inexpensive car that we can use for tip runs and sort of see how we get on with towing for the first year. So that's what we did. That's why we ended up with our Insignia diesel. So now moving on to the pros and cons of a battery electric vehicle. Well, I don't feel like I really need to go through the pros, because I know I love the way they drive. They're really quiet, they're vibrationless, they're just fantastic to drive.
Kind of float.
You do kind of float. It's lovely. I love the whizzing along. I love that a lot of electric cars now offer preconditioning. I mean, they did when we bought ours, but our MG couldn't precondition the vehicle. So basically defrost the car before you even have to leave the house, or in summer, cool it down with the air conditioning. You can just do that all from your phone, or you can set it on a timer. Don't get me wrong, some plug-in hybrids also now offer that. So that is a benefit of both, I suppose. Obviously, you can travel much further than you can with a plug-in hybrid in electric mode. So if you've got a 250-mile radius, before having to charge publicly, you can really travel 125-ish miles maybe before returning home, or before having to plug in and use a public charger. And then just in terms of the cons, obviously much higher purchase price compared to a plug-in hybrid, and obviously even more than an internal combustion engine. So you really do have to sort of crunch your numbers if it's if you're changing your vehicle just to save money, because generally you probably won't.
Well, it's fuel cost versus cost of car, isn't it? It's over
exactly,
the long term.
Over the long term, you need to work it out, and your depreciation that comes with that. I feel like towing is probably the compromise, because I think more planning is required, because not all service stations are set up the same, are they?
Well, they all have a one-way system, so you've got to know how the one-way systems work.
Yeah, well, no, they don't necessarily all have one-way systems, but sometimes, like, you'll pull off on a motorway, park your caravan wherever the caravan parking area is, unhitch it, drive to the EV charger, but there might be a one-way system in place, and then it spits you back out onto the motorway. So you'd have to drive all the way down, round a roundabout to get on the other side of the motorway, all the way back up. To be honest, that's just a bit of a faff. I do feel like service stations are being designed better, and probably with that in mind, but obviously old service stations still exist.
Quite often you can cut through the petrol station to get back to the beginning, and that'll be the way to get
Yeah,
there.
I don't know. I mean, for us, Cobham Services would be a good one because it's sort of like near London, and that you could travel
It's
to
all in
and
the
from
same
the
car
charger.
park, isn't it?
Yeah, we have been to one, but I can't remember what services it was where it was basically all in line and then it just spat you out at the end, so you wouldn't have been able to have turned around and gone back. And I suppose maybe we might have to adapt the way we travel, depending on time constraints. I mean, typically we're travelling with a caravan for leisure purposes, so our time's our own. So I think we just have to just change the way we do things. Maybe rather than getting up, having breakfast and setting off, we would have to wake up, pack up the caravan, set off, do 80 miles, 100 miles or whatever, then stop to charge the car, and maybe when we're charging the car, have breakfast then. We have actually done that when we went to the NEC last time. We got up, packed up, drove, I don't know what it was, 60 miles down the road, and then stopped at a service station for breakfast, which was quite nice. So yeah, I suppose there we could have recharged the car, which then wouldn't have had a time implication.
We stopped for croissants when we went to Weston-super-Mare as well, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Actually, yeah, we did, because so we typically travel with a family, don't like with mum, dad, my sister, and my niece. And I don't know what I'm not going to say I know what the restrictions are when travelling with a baby, but I'm sure she couldn't, or it's not recommended that babies travel in the car seat for any longer than 2 hours or an hour. I don't know what the recommendations are. So we had to stop
Depends
anyway.
how much the noise and smell kicks in.
Well, yeah, exactly. So yeah, I don't actually think that stopping to recharge would really cost us an awful lot of time, would you?
No.
It is just a little bit of extra hassle having to unhitch the caravan to charge it, but so what? I'm trying to convince him. So yeah, cars under consideration. So there's a car that really sticks out to me, and that's the Hyundai Ioniq 5. I love the way that looks. I feel like that's a really compelling EV and sort of has given Tesla a real run for its money, hasn't it? Would you agree?
I guess so.
Oh, he's got no idea. And then a sister car to that is the Kia EV6. They're based on exactly the same platform, so the same 800 volt architecture. I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but I feel like that's a really compelling car. And also more recently, Polestar 2. That's something that I came across, or it's a car that I've sort of been considering for the last year. But I've really noticed the purchase price of those have really tumbled, and you can actually get quite a lot of power for your money. So they do a dual motor with 408 brake horsepower, 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. These are really quite impressive figures, and typically a little bit cheaper than a Hyundai Ioniq 5. So it's got an advantage there, and it has also a really good infotainment system. Are you buying any of this? He's like, yeah, so I think that's a really good car. Obviously, Tesla Model Y, brilliant tow car, can tow, I think, 1,500 or 1,600 kilos, as can a Nissan Ariya with the bigger battery. All of these really quite good, quite exciting cars coming out, as well as some new upcoming ones like the Volvo EX30. That is a car I'm really interested in, as well as the Smart #1. That's a little bit left field. Don't know quite how I feel about it in terms of its styling, but again, really good price for the car. However, the Smart and the Volvo are both brand new vehicles. So we're not looking for a brand new car. So that might have to be a car for maybe 3 or 4 years' time. But even still, these cars are coming to market, and only more will come in 2024, 2025, which, yeah, obviously changes the landscape. So in terms of reflection on all of this, I know there are some real EV haters out there. I'm not really passionate if someone decides to keep their diesel for towing or for their day-to-day lifestyle, or if you're tempted by an electric car, or if you want the halfway house of the plug-in hybrid, because that does offer sort of, I suppose, a taste of both. I can see the benefits and the drawbacks of all of them. However, I'm a great believer in buying a car that suits 98% of your needs, not the one to cover the 2% of the journeys that you do sort of once a year. I mean, I think we're all looking for that Goldilocks car. Seating for 7, premium fit and finish, can tow 2.5 tons, costs 5p a mile to run, can fit in small parking spaces around town, has a performance of a Porsche 911. Doesn't exist. Well, I say it doesn't exist. Maybe the Tesla Model X is that. Apart from it being a small car, and it can tow 2.3 tons rather than 2.5.
Budgets in as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. See, budget. That's another thing, isn't it? So, I don't feel like the perfect car really exists. You just need one that sort of fits most of your needs. So now we're the other side of our extension. We don't really need the car for tip runs, despite actually having a bit of rubbish out. I'm looking outside, having got a bit of rubbish to get rid of. Still, we don't really need it for tip runs anymore, do we? Towing isn't actually as stressful as I thought it was going to be.
I was just leaving the house.
Yeah, which we would have with any vehicle. Our road can be quite congested sometimes, so yeah, getting the caravan off the driveway and onto the back of the car can be problematic at times, but obviously the fuel that your vehicle has wouldn't affect that. And generally I sort of plan our journeys, so I know the roads and the intersections that we're going to hit, so that's really been the only real stress. I suppose having had a diesel, I've not had to think about the range. But like I say, we've stopped every sort of 80 or 100 miles anyway, so I don't suppose that would really alter things for us that much, apart from that one time that we went to Bath in one go. I think stopping to charge to some might seem inconvenient, but like I say, after 100 miles, I generally probably want something to eat, go to the loo, stuff like that.
All about the food.
I'm all about the food, yeah. So I feel like stopping to charge would be the only slight drawback if we had an EV over a plug-in hybrid that offers us the flexibility just to go the whole way if we want to.
Yeah, it's not just the stopping, because we would stop anyway, but unhitching it and going across the other side sometimes.
What of the
it depends on the layout of the service station,
Yeah.
but that potentially is a bit of a faff.
It is a bit of a faff and obviously will require a bit of prep, but I'm hoping that over the next few years things are just going to will improve. Maybe like charter.
Stopping itself isn't an issue for us because you drive and you like to have a break, which is fine.
Yeah.
But it's the actual untowing. I have to stay with the caravan. You have to go off
if you
and
unhitch,
charge.
Yeah, and well, that works quite well because we're a couple. I can imagine maybe if you're a solo traveller, that must be a bit more difficult. And actually, last year, where did we go? Was that when we went to Weston-super-Mare, or near there, and you went to Speedway? So I would have had to have travelled home alone, but fortunately my other sister met me halfway, so she spent half the holiday with us. So when Bill went off to Speedway, she joined me for the holiday, so I had someone to drive home with. But yeah, I suppose that could be another problem because you'd have to fit all of your, like your wheel lock, hitch lock and things when you uncouple the car and caravan, so your caravan remains as secure as possible. If I was a solo traveller, perhaps I wouldn't want to separate the caravan because it's quite easy for someone to steal it. But fortunately, that's not a position that I'm in. So that's where we kind of are at the minute. That's as far as we've got. I personally am leaning more towards EV. I'd much rather a full EV. Don't you? But I have yo-yoed. Where did we go when we went to that service station we wanted to stop? And there was loads of lorries in I want to say, was it High Wycombe services? And we drove in, there wasn't a space we had, every lorry bay was taken. Couldn't find where the caravan bays were. So we drove around the service station, found the caravan bays, but they were too short for the car and caravan. So either the front of the car overhung the parking space or the caravan overhung the back. But it was like a loop around, so cars would drive around. Do you remember it was near the chargers?
It was just on the way home from the NEC, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I suppose it's service stations like that. I know if we had an electric car, we would have uncoupled, so we could have moved the caravan forwards while the car charged. But with a plug-in hybrid, if the service station isn't quite right, you've got the flexibility of you just carry on, don't you? Whereas if you're running out of charge or almost out of charge, you've sometimes got you will have no option but to stay and hope that everything works out. I don't know. So yeah, more planning is going to be required, I suppose. But in any case, I feel like I'm still leaning more towards EV than plug-in hybrid. If you're an owner of an EV or a plug-in hybrid, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are, experiences that you've had, because I'd be really interested to read them. I actually joined a Facebook group called, what is it called? Caravanning with Electric Vehicles UK, and that's been a really interesting group to sort of read, just to see what people are towing with, and they sort of make recommendations of service stations or areas where you can publicly charge. There's a charging station down Devon or Dorset way. I don't know where it is. Where's Cornwall?
Yeah, right down southwest.
Is that a county?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that way anyway, southwest, and they've actually got this charging station that's maybe got 6 or 8 chargers, and then there's one with a dedicated long bay for, I suppose, lorries or people that are towing. So I feel like give it more time and the landscape will adapt, but I know it adapts much more slowly than sort of like the rate that the EVs are hitting the road.
Supply's not meeting demand, is it?
No, I suppose not. And that was one thing that that we not struggled with, but towards the end of owning our EV, I noticed there are a lot more EVs on the road than when we first bought our MG. So
it was fine them building 10, 12 vehicle
like charging bays.
Yeah, but if there's the increase of chargers doesn't keep up with the increase in cars, then it's not a fast enough increase.
No, exactly. It's perpetually more difficult, doesn't it? But then a flip side to that is cars are actually charging faster than they were in 2020. Like cars are maybe spending less time on the chargers, but there are more electric cars to charge. So, I don't know. We're navigating our way through. If you have any first-hand experience yourself, please do let me know in the comments below. I'm really interested to know what people are towing with, experiences they've had, things like that. We really do appreciate you watching our videos. Please do give it a thumbs up, a like if you've enjoyed the video. As I say, comment below. And if you haven't, please subscribe, as that really helps our channel grow. And if you have been, thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.